press conference. We had practice. It went well. More tomorrow.
I guess I'll ask the first question just about Red and Diaz and the new guys that are coming in on offense. Just the energy, everything you wanted there in terms of the first day.
They have no choice. One, they have no choice because of just the energy of Coach Lashley and his entire staff, Coach Likens, Coach Justice, Coach Hippolyte. He's got more energy than everybody combined. So it's already a high energy thing. The nature of the beast is you have no choice but to be a high energy outfit. And so the players, they knew it was on from our very first fast start drill. Just the difference in what a practice is. If I'm an older guy, what I just went through is not something I've been through in the time I've been here. So it's a new experience.
Manny, in terms of what you have at running back, obviously without Cheney, it's basically three healthy tailbacks and Michael Parrott as well. Could you talk about what you have there? Did Burns show you enough where you feel confident in him as the only veteran back? And is that a position where you might at all look for help with the very limited resources you have left transfer market?
Well, I would consider Cam Harris a veteran back too.
No, I meant
yeah.
behind Cam.
Oh, I
Cam
see.
obviously
Okay.
Starter, Burns the only other veteran back.
No, I think when we reconvene in the fall, I think that's part of why we were able to get Don Cheney and Jalen Knighton to come together, because those are guys that wanted to factor in year one. Robert Burns absolutely showed that he can have a role on this football team beyond. He's one of our best special teams players and has huge impact on the game on special teams, but he's a different guy to tackle than all the other guys we have. But Cam Harris probably. It's always tough to single guys out, but since we've come back in the off-season program, I think I can say this: I don't think anybody's done more extra work in the weight room than Cam Harris. I think that's a fair statement to make. So, all of his intentions of what he's doing through his work ethic is priming himself for a big year.
Manny, talk a little bit about just what a new start means to you, to everybody. Just a chance to start over, put a new team together, hit the reset button, and try to make it right.
It's just a new year, and I don't know. No matter what our record was or what anyone else's record is, you have to rebuild a college team from scratch every year. I know as a coordinator, I always felt like you had to rebuild the defense every year. You can never assume, we're going to run the ball and tackle. You can never assume that those things, you can never take those for granted. And we mentioned to our team today, a team is a collection of people and the behavioral choices that they make. And so by nature, if you change the people on the team, then you've changed the team. If you change the choices that those people make, then you change the dynamic of the team. This is just a different set of guys than it was a year ago. It's a different staff than it was a year ago. So to me, regardless of how, whether last year finished good, bad, or anywhere in between, it's just everyone in the country starting off 0-0. And I know that's cliche, but it's still true.
With another year under your belt, what are some of the things you're going to be doing differently, this year that maybe you didn't do last year?
Yeah, you always have a learning curve from year one to year two, and that's obvious. There are so many things, a lot of things that that are that I kind of keep internally, that you're doing differently. But I keep going back to what I just said before. All this is about the people, and it's making sure that you have the right people on board. You have to draw a line. If you don't have the right people on board, then you have to make some. You have to either through recruiting to what you want to build through your culture. You do that, and it's not for everybody, And some people, they end up on the wayside, and so I think that's the biggest part. I think what you understand is the realization that you can't bring everyone to water, right? But those that do, you want that to be the nucleus of your team.
You mentioned Cam Harris did a nice job in the off-season program. I was wondering if you could mention maybe other guys that maybe fall in that category too, that have some nice momentum going.
Gosh, yeah. There are a bunch. The team. David Feely and his staff have really done a remarkable job of getting the guys stronger, getting them ready for that practice we just went through. didn't have a guy miss a rep, despite all the tempo and the high amount of plays that we got today. As I just go through the list, a lot of the guys are ones that you would suspect, Al Blades, is a great worker in our offseason program. DJ Ivey, same way. Christian Williams, I'm just kind of starting secondary, has, made some big strides. And I feel like anytime I start rolling through names, you end up, I don't want to, if I don't call someone's name out, act like that they haven't been. Certainly Amari Carter has been outstanding. Zach McLeod, it's hard to find a guy that works in the program harder than Zach McLeod. John Ford in the weight room has been a different guy this year. Obviously, Greg Rousseau, I think you guys got a chance to see him in person, and he looks, outstanding on offense. Again, just looking at what Zion Nelson looks like now in person compared to what he was, 365 days ago, he's a different person. The wideouts, you see D. Wiggins, Mike Harley, those guys are all working hard. This has been a very productive offseason program for us. We had great competition. And you get to that point where now we did what we did today, get on the grass and go play some football.
Manny, Derek King, how is he doing in light of his dad's death? Given his history and what he's done, it seems understandable to figure that most of us, I think probably all of us, believe he'll end up being the starter. When would you like to name the starter? Can you talk about everything I just said?
In the order that you asked it, no, I won't. I don't think it's fair for me to speak on how Derek is doing. I couldn't begin to know what it's like to go through what he's going through. What I know is he's been phenomenal when he's been in this building as a worker throughout the entire time he's been here. And the big thing, and just being around him the last couple of weeks, we just want him to know that not just him but his entire family, that our whole program is with him, and we hurt with him, and we're that he feels our love, which is important. And then in terms of the quarterback situation, I think it's not all that different from what I've talked about a year ago. When we know, we want to announce. Last year that was after our second scrimmage in the fall. This year I can't predict when that would be, but we want to have. I've said this since I became the head coach. We want to have a starting quarterback at the University of Miami.
Manny, you talked about the importance of bringing the right people on board. Where in the hiring process did you realize that these, in the new offensive coaching staff, that these were the right people?
When did you realize that these were the right people?
Not necessarily when, but more why.
Why? I'm struggling to, why did I realize these were the right people, or like how do you?
What attributes did Brett Lashley and some?
Okay, I see. That's fair. Yeah. Well, I think when you go through the hiring process and when you start vetting out candidates for the job that you have, perhaps you start asking some different questions, and talking with people who have worked with Rhett or people who have worked with Garen or with Rob or anybody else you bring to the program. No different than when I remember sat here on December 18th and I talked about the mental attributes of that recruiting class that we brought in. And I mentioned, like-minded people coming together, so it's not just about a series of plays or a spread or tempo that to me makes Rhett Lashley, for example, who he is. It's really who he is as a man. And I'm not trying to indict anyone else. I'm just talking about positively about the people that we have in here now. That kind of fit with our staff, the culture of our staff, and the type of people that we want to be, So I think all those guys, just from doing my research and doing my homework, checked all those boxes, and then getting them into our program. I think anyone, whether it's our players, whether it's people around the building, there's been a noticeable difference, that their personalities really stand out in the way that you interact with them.
Manny, two things on two different offensive linemen. On Cleveland Reed, what was it thinking in bringing him back? And did you need to take a step back just from a global standpoint of determining, do I want to allow players back who maybe didn't find greener pastures elsewhere? And then on Jalen Rivers, when you evaluated him on tape, and from what you've seen Matt drill so far, and it's very limited on field, obviously, had your sense been he's a guy who can come in and compete to be a rotation player immediately? And has your view on that changed at all through a month or so of having him on campus?
You asked about Jalen. The first thing you asked about.
Yeah, about Cleveland.
About Cleveland, yeah. You know, that's something, that's, there's no manual for that, right? Because this is a new era with the portal. And you have to take every one of those cases one by one individually. I think Cleveland, you know, expressed that he felt pretty soon after he made the decision that he had made a mistake. And, you know, that's kind of the trick. I mean, you know, these are young men, you know, they see these decisions and, you know, you don't want them, you know, you don't want one day or a bad choice all of a sudden to be something that may impact them the rest of their life. And then obviously it's always hard to find, you know, linemen, you know, and because of the rule with initial scholarships that you're allowed to give out, we couldn't, you can't replace that. And so that's one of the issues we have now is that as more people want to transfer out, you can't make yourself whole at 85 because you're limited by the 25 cap every year. So, so there are times when you have to factor that decision into what, you know, whether to allow a young man back or not. But we also told, you know, there were some parameters in terms of the way that Cleveland was going to have to work and act when he came back, because it got back to my first thing about, you know, you've got to be for the culture and you got to be for one of us. And Cleveland's done a good job of working hard since he's been back. In terms of Jalen Rivers, you have to understand now, Jalen's funny when you're talking about impressions of him in high school. I mean, we've known Jalen since ninth grade, you know, and at that point he was just, you know, he was so big and athletic for his size, and it's been fun to watch him grow and mature over the time of his career at Oak Leaf High School. They did a great job of coaching him up there when he was there. He has shown since he's been on our campus, I think the most exciting thing what you see with those freshmen is, especially a big guy like Jalen, right? Jalen never faced a peer in high school. I say never, very rarely, probably someone we saw eye to eye with someone. And even if it's in our off-season program, we throw a tug-of-war rope out there, you know what I mean, and just have him, you know, go up against an older guy on our offensive line or older guy on our defensive line, and just seeing him compete, you know, and seeing if he's got some dog in him for a young guy, because, you know, that's usually the biggest jump, and watching him compete early on has been very encouraging, that he's got some of that in him. Now, in terms of the rotational, I mean, you know, holy cow, it's day one just in pajamas. We'll figure out that, but look, all of our guys are here to compete. There's no player on our football team right now with any status, and we have told, whether it's the sort of the quote-unquote 545 lift group from the fall, whether it's this group of newcomers that just came in, we've told all these guys, come take someone's job. Come take someone's job. We got to get out of this, you know, comfort zone of guys being here and being comfortable and whatever. We got to get back to that. And do we have enough guys to do that yet? Is our depth where it should be to do that yet? No. Keep recruiting, get another recruiting class, but that has been the secret to success here for a long time.
Hey, Manny, this is the first time you don't have Shaq and Pickens here since you've been here. And I heard you on the radio this morning say he feels like maybe there's more leadership. Are you seeing guys individually, maybe just through what they do in the offseason conditioning program, take on maybe some of those, you know, roles that Shaq and Pickens?
That's part of it, but I also think that what I meant when I expressed that was that probably in every room, you know, certainly Shaq was a great leader, and Mike was to an extent as well. I think now at every stop along the way, there's a guy in every room that has that leadership quality, where instead of maybe leaning on one guy so much like a Shaq, that it can be more balanced. So there's a guy to lead the corners. Now, there's a guy in the safeties room that can lead the safeties, and there's a guy in the defensive end, you know what I mean, and just those guys. So I think that's what I meant, and I think that helps, as opposed to just kind of having one guy always having to grab the mic to be that guy. I think there'll be more position group accountability, and part of that's just because of age, right? We're so young and inexperienced in the secondary last year, for example, and I think just the growing up of our defense will help some of that.
Are there any particular guys that are more vocal, I guess, is what I was asking?
Oh, even just seeing a guy like Greg Rousseau start to become more vocal, you know, I think that's big. You know, certainly we talked about Zach, Amari Carter, you know, becoming more of a vocal guy. Al Blades, you know, those are guys that certainly stand out to me, and there are others.
Manny, I want to ask about Jalen Phillips. What have you seen from him since now he's able to participate, you know, after he's been around for a while since his transfer, and what the possibilities are with him, pair him in that group with Greg Rousseau and Quincy Roche and everyone else?
Yeah, it gets back to that word competition, right? Again, just judging on Jalen through our off-season program. Again, we've just had one practice, that, you know, I have to watch the film, but highly competitive guy, Jalen can run. You know, I mean, even when we ran the stadium at Hard Rock last week, I mean, Jalen was maybe one of the top. I know he's one of the top 7 finishers in the combo group, like in the linebacker size group, I believe. He's very, very athletic for his size. He's obviously, totally transformed his body with David Feely since he's been back here. And again, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to add as many, highly competitive, talented football players as we can to our defense. And again, he'll learn the framework. He was not allowed to practice, last calendar year. So today was really his first practice since I don't even know how long. So it'll take him a minute to get back into the field things. But yeah, we expect him to be, fighting for, and that's why, again, whether it's Greg or there's no one that should be comfortable on this football team. No one. And guys like Jalen are a big reason why.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you all for being here.